Almost 30 Nation. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. It's Lindsay and Krista. Thanks for being here. We are two best friends who started the show 7 years ago. We've been rocking and rolling ever since. Everything from spirituality to relationships to sex to career to everything in between. The weird and the woo-woo included. But today we're talking about one of your favorite topics, sex.
You guys love sex. Are you repressed?
The curiosity is so real, but I totally get it.
Yes.
I totally get it. This is not a topic that I feel like, is one people feel super comfortable talking about, even though they would love to feel comfortable talking about it. And I feel like anytime we see it in the mainstream media, it's always like this weird, awkward, corny conversation.
I feel like, I was thinking about when you're talking, which is not a good way to be a good listener, but just how obsessed we are with kind of the topic of sex. And I was thinking about growing up in high school and college, how people were so open to talk about sex.
Yeah.
Where a lot of, the times I would hang out with girls, it would be talking specifically in so many details about sex. But it was always about the act and never really about intimacy or nothing really beyond the physical elements of sex, and none about foreplay, none about conversation, none about consensuality. There's just so many aspects that we really miss in pop culture and society, especially when there's podcasts or shows or conversations specifically about like the raunchiness of sex, where you really miss out on the intimacy, the communication, like the special aspects of what makes sex so special in relationship.
Totally. Yeah, it was always about the raunch part.
Oh, yeah.
It's very much like how big, how small, how long, how, not just the dick, but like how long we're having sex. Like how many times.
Yes.
What he
like
did.
Ways to brag.
Positions.
Yes.
Which, is all well and good. And in today's conversations, we'll kind of have those moments of talking about fun positions and things like that. But there is so much more to having a really beautiful, intimate, and fulfilling sexual experience that we were never, ever taught.
Yes.
So to be learning now and like practicing now, better late than never, but it takes some reprogramming. I've definitely had many a moment in the bedroom where I'm like, oh yeah, this is the part of me that really leans on being like either hypersexual or goes faster, or whatever it is. Like there's just aspects that you have to catch in the moment and be able to just make another choice,
100%. I did my retreat in Mexico, my pleasure and intimacy retreat with Simone Farshi. That was a solo retreat where I did, full learning and rewiring of pleasure and my body and sexuality, because I've always thought in my mind, in this lifetime, in this experience, all the things that I'm going to do were all the ways I'm going to grow. And I always felt like sexuality would happen in another lifetime. I love sex. I love having sex with my partners, but it never felt like something I'd really go deep on, or I'd really it never felt like a door that I would walk through as like a method of my growth. But it's been incredible. And just seeing all the ways that it impacts other areas of your life, like creativity, like embodiment, like self-acceptance. It's really, really powerful. And in our conversation with Emily, it was really good to talk about the things that are holding us back from having good sex.
Yeah.
So whether that's judgment of yourself, emotional trauma, there's so many aspects of our lives and the way that we were brought up or the way that we're interacting with society and culture that really keep us from having that really good sex. And when we talk about good sex, it's not just like the movies sex. It's like embodied, relaxed, deep, loving, or whatever it is. It's that good sex as defined by you and your body and your nervous system.
Yeah, I think relaxed is definitely a key word, because if I think back to just sex in my 20s, I mean, I don't know if there was a relaxed bone in my body unless I was drinking a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I would drink, where I would feel a bit more relaxed. I would feel more in my body, even though I really wasn't. But I would feel a bit more liberated, because sober, the mind is really doing a number and trying to just interject in every moment, because there's so many opportunities to feel embarrassed, ashamed, vulnerable, too much, too little. And so I think an important piece for me has been like trust, like to be able to trust a partner to not only in a safety aspect, but really like to see me and to also hold space, and for me to hold space as well for like the exploration rather than just this like transaction to happen in a very, contracted way.
Yeah. In Way of the Superior Man by David Data, he talks about that. He's like, if you're not having that type of sex, you're really just like rubbing organs together.
Yeah.
To get a response. And it's so interesting because I think when you come to the table with a partner, whether it's a romantic partner or someone you're just hooking up with casually, there's this assumption that like we know what we're doing. And you're like, I know how to have sex. And it's like, put this here.
Totally.
Whether it's heterosexual or not. It's like, this goes here, this happens here. And that's really not. There's so much more to it.
So much more.
Especially with different people. Like you actually, if you're having sex with someone for the first time, again, heterosexual or not, you actually have no idea how it goes because everyone is so different. Everyone likes such different things. So it's truly a new experience, whether it's with a partner every time or even with a partner you've seen more than once. Like it can be new every single time because your body changes, your taste changes, you're going to heal differently, you're going to be more communicative, all of these different things.
And that's what I loved in our conversation when we talked about communication as that like lubrication, and also that is the gateway to getting to know, even if it's a new partner, same partner, like every single time I feel like there needs to be that clear form of communication, whether it's during, before, after, so that there's, I mean, it sounds unsexy, but almost like this data collection of just like understanding, seeking to understand the other in a deeper way rather than so hyper focused on either what they didn't do or what you didn't do. Yeah. It's like this is a learning process and an exploration that might not ever get to a destination, but that's kind of the point.
Yeah, in my last relationship, that was so helpful. And I just remember that feeling of, and that reminder that I was given of, we're going to have sex again. Like that ease where you're like, oh, like every time
doesn't have to be
the craziest. It doesn't have to continue to progress to crazier and crazier and better. Like you don't need to do more costumes. You don't need to do more all these things.
You're going to say cock rings.
You don't need to do more cock rings. You can do just one type of butt plug. But when you're younger, I felt like that's what it was. I'm like, oh, we have to continue to keep it spicy and interesting and all these things. You have to continue to outdo yourself. And when you're in like an intimate relationship for a long time, it's like, oh, it's okay.
It's okay.
Like we can have, this one can be maintenance. This one can be super deep. This one can be whatever. And we can feel really good about wherever we're at because we know that we're just practicing every single time things that feel good for both of us.
Yeah. And I think communicating that with your partner where it's like, you know what I mean? Where there's that understanding. Because I think one usually gets a little insecure about, oh, it hasn't been as frequent.
Yes.
Or
I remember, oh my God, I used to freak out.
Yeah.
I'm like, we are only having sex every day. He thinks I'm ugly. I'm disgusting. And I knew it all along. Totally. He's cheating on me because we're only having sex. It's like crazy.
But also now as adults, finding intimacy in other ways, I think is so nice and surprising. I think there's like many moments where like I've been surprised just how like intimate an experience can be and there's no sex involved and you still kind of get that feeling. So yeah,
I am pumped.
I love this.
So in this episode with Emily Morse of Sex with Emily, she is a doctor of human sexuality and she's host of the podcast Sex with Emily. She's a masterclass instructor on sex and communication. She previously had a show on Sirius XM and her book is out now and it is called Smart Sex. So during this conversation, we talked about what's holding you back from your best sex. We talked about releasing pain. We talked about sex IQ, so the 5 pillars of sexual intelligence. We talked about how to relax into your body during sex, which is something that we all need to know. We talk about what to do when you have a shifting of attraction in your partner. So if you've been with your partner for a long time or a short time and you find yourself either less attracted or more attracted, what do you do in that situation? And we also talked about non-monogamy. So this is a conversation that might just be happening in LA and Austin, but I feel like so many people are exploring and trying to understand non-monogamous relationships. So what it would be like in one, how do you know if you are ready to be in one? What can you do if you are in a non-monogamous relationship? And how to understand if that could be something that would work for you.
Love it. I was just thinking, I'm like, I would love to know what states have the most non-monogamous
Austin
people. I think
those are the communities I interact with most. So
but I don't think Texas as a whole.
100%.
And I don't know if California as a whole. I'm like, there might be some weird ass states that are like really ripping it
so
under the radar.
True. That is so true. I wonder, I'm also curious about too, this is something I've thought about, the correlation between socioeconomic status and being non-monogamous. You know, being in a open relationship seems to be something that people with a higher socioeconomic status are exploring more because it's the men that have access to so much money, so they have the power to choose. So then they make it sort of like they're, you know, they run the world because they have the money. So they trade money for sex. Then women are with men that are richer.
Yeah.
And then they can say, they can either choose, they can truly choose it and be like, I want to be non-monogamous. They're trading sex, they're trading money within the relationship. I don't think that's happening across the board, but I've thought about that as a trend.
It's not like paying for sex.
It's not,
but,
yes.
Okay.
But that's like
I wanted to clarify.
kind of the trade. It's like you're with a man that's very rich and kind and potentially and loves you. But yeah, I just think
that's super interesting.
And there's a freedom too. You know, when someone's a very rich man, they have that sort of freedom forward attitude and kind of like the rebel mentality of belief they can do sort of whatever they want and they can live in whatever way, which is true. None of it's bad or good. I'm just saying this is sort of what I've witnessed.
Yeah, totally. Well, enjoy this one, everyone. If you found it to be super interesting, share it with a friend maybe. Yes. This would be like a good one to like chat with girlfriends about maybe. Or maybe even a partner. Love that. And make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. And we do have another podcast, Morning Microdose. This is our Clips podcast. And really our intention in creating this show was to set the tone for your day. This is the best of the best from Almost 30, inspiring and funny, and just will get you curious and really kind of in that energy that you hope to be in for the rest of the day. So subscribe now.
Almost 30 podcast on TikTok and Instagram. I love our TikToks and Instagrams. They're just popping off lately. Truly. Almost30.com for all of our courses and programs and membership. Our membership is an incredible space and community where like-hearted people connect all over the world on personal growth, self-development, spirituality, and wellness. And I'm really grateful that you're here. We love you so, so, so much.
We'll see you soon. This episode is brought to you by IQ Bar. Now get 20% off every IQ Bar product plus free shipping when you text almost to 64,000. 64000. So easy when you text almost, ALMOST, to 64,000. Okay, IQ Bar, this is my bar of choice. I don't know about you, but it's really hard for me to find a bar that I can either snack on before a workout, after a workout, when I'm on the go, when I'm just craving something good that isn't filled with ingredients that I can't pronounce or filled with sugar. But I found it for us, y'all. I've found it for us. It is an incredible, yummy, chewy, amazing bar that has like next to no sugar or net carbs. It's packed with brain nutrients, plant protein, and fiber. It is formulated with 6 key nutrients shown to support cognitive energy, performance, and health. So no more midday slump. You are going to have this in your purse, in your gym bag. You are going to have this stocked in your pantry. I swear to you. So I had the Banana Nut IQ bar after a workout because sometimes I just get ravenous after a workout. First of all, the banana nut is my absolute favorite. They've just perfected the flavor. It tastes like banana bread. I'm obsessed. And I just felt so good afterwards. I didn't feel like that sugar high and then the crash. I just felt satiated, and I can go on to my meeting that I had after this workout, and I just felt amazing. It's made with real food, not chemicals, loaded, like I said, with plant protein, prebiotic fiber, healthy fats, and functional nutrients like the lion's mane adaptogen. So, are you going to try it? Okay. Some of the flavors that I'm loving, the toasted coconut chip. Like I said, the banana nut is one of my faves. The almond butter chip, come on. The lemon blueberry, yo. Need I say more? So try out these bars. It is Almost 30 approved times a million. You can now get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus get free shipping. To get your 20% off, just text ALMOST to 64,000. That's easy. Just do it right now. I know your phone's near you. Get your discount. Text ALMOST to 64,000. That's ALMOST to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Y'all, I was just admiring my hair. And I have to say it because I've got to brag a little bit. It is looking better than ever. And I got a really whack haircut probably like 5 months ago. I tried the bangs thing. I tried a lot of layers. I wanted to be like really chic and cool. Was not working at all. Immediately when I got home, I'm like, this is an absolute disaster. My hair looks terrible. I need to figure out a way to make it grow and bring it back to like the thickness level that it was before, because I got a lot of layers in it. And so I knew I had to start my Nutrafol regimen again. I've been taking Nutrafol off and on for probably like 4 years now. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I was taking it really regularly and my hair was the best it's ever been. And since I've just been off and on taking it whenever I feel like I really need it, but it is the most effective supplement for hair ever. There are 30 million women that are impacted by weakened or thinning hair. So if you're among them, it's very normal and you're not alone. I know a lot of women in my community, a lot of my friends feel really insecure about thinning hair or having hair that doesn't feel as thick as they want. So feeling like your hair isn't up to par is totally normal. And Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement. It's actually clinically shown to improve hair growth, thickness, and help with visible scalp coverage. I really love that it helps by targeting from within. So it targets the 5 root causes of hair thinning, which are stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism. So it has these really powerful, unique formulas that support you through all stages of your life. And there's 3,000 of the top doctors and stylists that recommend Nutrafol as an effective and high-quality solution for healthier hair. So get the best hair that you feel really confident about, that you feel really gorgeous and luxurious and amazing in with Nutrafol. To have thicker, healthier hair and support Almost 30 feels like a win-win. So go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code ALMOST to save $10 off your first month's subscription. And you really want to get the subscription because it's probably going to take like 3 to 4 months to start working. This is so natural and normal for when we're taking a supplement to have a time where it's going to kind of start working within your body. So you're going to want to use the promo code ALMOST to save $10 off your first month subscription. And this offer is only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. So get $10 off at Nutrafol.com, Nutrafol, Nutrafol.com, and use promo code ALMOST. Get that luxurious, gorgeous hair. I loved actually that statement of when you first started in this, you were not someone that was an expert and someone that wanted to just learn through it, because I think people look at you as such an expert. So what has been the journey in the 20 years of you doing it? You know, are you trying all the things you're talking about? Did you have to take a while to figure out what worked for you? Like, what's that been like?
Yeah. It's a great question. I always say research is me search. And so I think that we go towards what we're interested in, and hopefully we find, and we have a pain point. At least for me, I had a pain point. I was having sex and it wasn't always enjoyable. And after I was with a partner for a while, the sex wasn't as great. We weren't as attracted to each other. I wasn't having as much pleasure. I was faking orgasms. I just thought there's no information here about sex. And so I thought, well, and as someone being who's, hard on myself and overachiever, I was like, it must be me. I blame myself. I figured everyone else knew what they were doing and I didn't. So I set out on a journey to find the answers. And when I did, there wasn't a lot of places to go. There was Dr. Ruth, who was probably one of the first people to talk about sex. She's about 90 now, and she still is talking about it, which is wonderful. But we're talking like 2003. I started the podcast in 2005, but 2003, I was living in San Francisco, and I started doing like a cable access show called Searching for Sex in San Francisco. So I really started interviewing people, and I realized that the great thing was that a lot of people, not the great thing, but I found I had company. People were also looking for answers, had a lot of shame around it, but realized that they didn't really know much about sex either. There was a few books out there like Our Bodies, Ourselves and The Joy of Sex. So yes, at the very beginning, I was learning along with, if you went back and listened to my earlier shows, it was like me with like mouth agape being like, oh my God, show me this sex toy, or how do you have an orgasm? Or I went to my first sex party. I had threesomes. I was in open relationships. I played with things. I would come on the show every week and just kind of talk about what I was going through. And then it's sort of, again, and we're talking thousands and thousands of podcasts.
Yeah.
That I went through a journey of like, okay, I'm going to go back to grad school. I'm going to get my doctorate. And I still, of course, share things as they're, I mean, we're talking, that was like 2005, 2006. And then I realized I started to kind of learn who I am. And it was more interesting for me to then become, to help people once I got my doctorate and kind of, but yes, it's definitely, and also, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. But also I'm still learning all the time.
Oh yeah, of course.
What were your shame points, in sex? So there was pain points, but then what were like your shame points?
I think I had a lot of shame around not being able to orgasm. I thought that something was wrong, that I couldn't orgasm during penetration. And I assumed that everyone else was. I assumed that everyone else was turned on all of the time. And that everyone had more experience than I did. And I was also shameful that I've never really wanted the traditional relationship either until now. It's funny, it's taken me a while, but my upbringing was that my parents were divorced several times with other partners. It was just sort of I thought something was wrong with me, that I didn't want the traditional route, that I wasn't looking for marriage, family, kids, and I was really looking for a way to just kind of understand myself and understand life and have more pleasure and all the things. And so I've sort of found my way towards a more traditional place right now, but so yeah, those are my main shame points.
I think I'm curious too about being on that kind of path, because we know sex is not just about, the physical act. So when you're doing all these things and you're exploring threesomes and all different types of sex and different types of relationships, what was your internal growth path like? Like, how did you grow on the inside while you're doing all these externally focused things?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked that, because early on, it's funny to say right now, because it's so not about you could check things off your list. And now I realize how that was just so, again, probably even still a little performative. I had a good time performative, but for me, my internal path was I really went deep into my therapy. I've always been in and out of therapy, and I realized that talk therapy was no longer serving me. I could tell I didn't want to sit down with another therapist and share the story about my childhood. And so really getting into trauma work and doing like EMDR therapy. You guys have talked about the eye movement.
Yes.
What is it? Desensitization and reprocessing. Going into more meditation. I've been a meditator for almost 25 years, but going more into that. Just being more mindful, more present. I'm trying to think. My internal process was learning to communicate too. That was the other thing around sex. I have to say that 99% of the problems you're going to have around sex have nothing at all to do with your sex act, your body type, what you want. It has everything to do with communication with yourself and with others. So I think that coming from a place of being very performative and being a pleaser, that I was having a lot of sex that was more about my partner's pleasure, and I wasn't able to, I think that I could have been in a lot of different kinds of relationships if I had known to expect that if you're with somebody for longer than 6 months or a year, that you're going to have some challenges in your sex life. You're not going to want to rip each other's clothes off the second you walk in the door anymore. And you're going to want to talk about that. But instead, I would probably think, well, something's wrong with me. Well, how do I get my desire back? I didn't realize that great sex and great relationships was all about communication and collaboration.
It's huge. Yeah, communication is everything. It's so crazy how so little people, and I'm saying this for me as someone that's trying my best to be the best communicator that I can in relationship, we're not taught to communicate. We just shut down, especially about sex. I don't think I've ever, until my recent relationship, talked about sex at all. like what you like, what I like, what your previous history is, like what we want to do together. And I think Lindsay and I both can agree, we talked about this before, but our sex at first was very performative. I think that, I don't know if that was part of our culture or the way that we grew up, but it was all for their pleasure. And it was all for, basically, from my perspective, what they would say or think about me. Like, oh, she's a freak. She's these things, she's these things. But it was never like that I needed to enjoy this or be in my body or even orgasm for a lot of my life. And I feel so much for women because we've been just so, robbed of pleasure for so long.
And I think most of my like adult pleasure has come from or started with that conversation even before, or even like well before we get to the bedroom. It's like I kind of get turned on like when we're having even a conversation about our intimacy or what we desire, what we like. And I didn't know that was possible. I think I'm someone, as like a former people pleaser, that I was thinking so much about my questions or my inquiries and how they might make the other person feel insecure or might make them feel uncomfortable, that I would just lead with my body and just kind of get into that more performative state rather than having a more grounded conversation, so that we're actually having sex with like a partner, like rather than just transactionally exchanging.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly it.
So how can people be better communicators? If we're talking about this, us three as people that know the benefits of communication and know how powerful it is in the bedroom and outside of it, how can people communicate more with their partners so that they can get what they want out of sex?
It's such a good question. I mean, I think the communication is, I would say communication is a lubrication, just so you know that the more you learn to tackle this communication stuff and really get comfortable with it, your sex life will absolutely improve. And I think the first thing is getting very comfortable with yourself first. So what are the messages I was telling myself, right? So I had to look at what are my internal messages around sex, around communication. For example, like if I talk to my partner about sex, it's going to make them uncomfortable. They're not going to feel good about it. It's sort of on my own to figure out everything. Also, what was society conversations around sex? A lot of us learn about sex through, like, a lot of them negative conditioning or the wrong conditioning, because a lot of sex is unlearning, comes from porn. Again, not bashing porn. There's some really good things about porn, but some of it's like, that's the only way we're seeing sex. And my body doesn't look like that. The way I orgasm isn't like that. The way... if I orgasm at all. And so I had to like unlearn, I had to think about where, what are the messages? So I had to kind of go through that whole internal process. And then I just had to start practicing talking to partners about sex and finding partners who had a growth mindset around sex. And they're still hard to find. So when you said you just started, I mean, honestly, like, I'm going to say it, the majority of people do not have healthy conversations around sex until there's a problem. And even then, it's so hard to talk about. We think about everything else in our relationship. If it's like money, finances, are we going to have kids? Should we live in the city or country? How we decorate the home? Are we going on summer break? Whatever it is, but we like sex is just like this thing that's just sort of shrouded in mystery, and we hope we figure it out. So the conversations around sex are just a practice, and they are sometimes very hard to have, for sure. And so for me, it just looks like, again, for me, it's been a little bit easier because most people I'm dating, they know what I do. But I think for a lot of my listeners too, I realize that they just sort of, it's hard at first, like everything that we've never done, but they're just like, sometimes they blame me. Like I listened to Sex with Emily, or they listen to the show together. A lot of couples have emailed me and said DM me and said we listened to it for 15 hours. Like because it's a language. It's a language of it. I try to normalize the sex conversation for people, because once you start talking about it, you can't stop. But getting over that hurdle, it's like starting any new kind of habit. Your healthcare, getting healthier, exercise, whatever. So with sex, it's normalizing the fact that it's something that you can talk about. So how that looks is, I would say the basic conversation, the place to start is the 3 T's of communication, which is timing, tone, and turf. And by the way, these 3 T's are great for any awkward conversation that you want to have with a partner. But specifically with sex, the timing is really important. So you want to find a time when you are You are in a more relaxed state. You're not angry. You're not like, you didn't take out the trash and you haven't gone down on me in 6 months. You know, it's about the timing is when I would say you're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. You're not halt. You're in a place where you think it's conducive to a conversation. And the tone is curious and it's open. And it's really just, hey, I thought we should have this conversation about something about sex and hope you'll be open to follow along with me. And just to be, again, it's curious. It's not judging. It's not blaming. It's not shaming. And the turf is outside the bedroom. Believe it or not, a lot of people think, well, I'm having sex. This is a great place to have it. You know, when we're cooking, we think like something goes wrong with the recipe, but we're going to talk about the ingredients in the kitchen. But in the bedroom, you're usually in a heightened state, and it might be a frustration. Sex isn't happening, or it wasn't happening the way you wanted to. So wait for a time when you are walking, you are driving the car, because it's really awkward. I want to acknowledge that it is awkward, uncomfortable for many people. So if you're driving, you're not making eye contact. And I have to say it works. Like my partner and I, we were walking the dogs the other night. He's like, so I thought we should talk about this thing. I was like, God, he listens to me. Like, he's right. I'm like, I wasn't really in the mood right now, but I can't complain. We're not looking at each other. We're walking the dogs. Okay, what do you want to say, babe? So it's like, we were calm. We were moving our bodies.
Yeah.
So it is a great time to talk about it.
Huge. So important. Yeah. We take walks. We'll take walks when we have to have like hard conversations with each other. And it's so nice to keep that energy flowing. Mm-hmm. And also there's something, and I don't know the science behind it, but where I'm able to be more in my heart and less in my mind, because I think having the environment around you, moving your body, and also not looking at a person in a person's eyes is super helpful for feeling into what I'm feeling rather than being so consumed with how they might be taking what I'm saying.
I wonder if that's like a co-regulation thing or something, because it's like if we were looking at each other, I wonder if I'd be picking up on you too much, where I'd be like trying to co-regulate with you instead of being in my own experience and you being in your own experience. But I didn't know about turf until we've done that accidentally, not knowing it was turf. And that was such a game changer, where I'm like, wow, because my thought was growing up that we need to be sitting across from each other at dinner, holding each other's hands, or like just, okay, I need to talk to you. And it was almost like principal student type thing, but just taking the pressure off of having it feel like it has to be so serious or perfect, or just like where it can be something that it is, like in the car, like, hey, I want to talk about this, you know, just taking that pressure off of it is huge.
Absolutely. It's casual. It's light. Yes. I mean, I really want to make it like, hey, so we should talk about, like, let's talk about the sex we had last night. Like, let's talk about what we're going to do this weekend. Like, we have a weekend away. Like, my partner and I went away. Like, what toy should I bring? Like, what should we do? Like, making it light, even if it doesn't feel that way. I get it. But I get it. Just, you want a partner that's going to be a great collaborator in this. And eventually it will feel that way. But
so when someone has like a, you know, in this communication, on this communication piece, if someone has a desire that they're a little nervous to share with their partner, how would you recommend that they bring it up in a way that the partner can receive, and also that they can remain really in their body and in their truth?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So if you start with these, you know, you found the environment and the turf and the tone, I think it's realizing that, knowing that it's something that's a little bit uncomfortable for you is good to know that, and then making sure that you've already talked about, or that it's just sort of, it's a conversation, and it's, you know, not a monologue, it's a dialogue that you're sharing the conversation with them, but saying, you know, I really want to be open and talk to you about our sex life, and there's been coming from using the I statements and sharing what it is that's making you feel uncomfortable, sharing why, like sharing, it's more like the who, what, where, why. Maybe it's, you want to share a fantasy, let's say, that you've been wanting to try. It could be like, you know, I want to talk to you about something. I hope you'll be able to listen right now. It's something I've had this fantasy for a while. I think it's something that I, you know, saw in porn, or a friend told me about. And then you want to share why you're sharing it. Because I thought, you know, it could be like, okay, let's say you want to have sex in public, let's say. You could say, okay, well, I think this is a fantasy I once saw in porn, and I think that it would be, tell them why. It would be really hot to have other people watching us. And I think for it would really help our relationship and us go stronger, because it would be a shared experience. And I think it'd be really hot to have other people see what I see in you. Just kind of, and I think we could kind of collaborate on this. I keep using the word collaboration because I realize so much of sex we realize we have to solve on our own. So I just want to say that you are not alone in your sex. And then another great experience, and this is just basic communication, have your partner, like it's called the imago theory, can they repeat back to you what they heard? Okay, so what I hear you say is that you have a fantasy, and I know that you've been feeling maybe some embarrassment and shame around it, but what you'd like to do is have sex outside with people watching, and then you get a chance to say, is that correct? Is that what I hear? And then you could say yes to that, but I don't think it's necessarily outside. It would actually be inside, but there'd be other people there. Then you get to say, okay, so say it again. And this might sound kind of tedious, but I really think it's the best way we can learn to communicate with each other in all areas of our life, to be great listeners.
Yes.
We're not just talking, but happy. And then you kind of solve for that. And also, when we're talking about something like our sex life, which can be so delicate and so fraught with, a lot can come out for us. Trauma, embarrassment, shame, imposter syndrome, all the things that come up, that you don't have to have it all at once. It's okay to say, we cover this for today, and let's come back to it next week or when we feel great. The other thing is, if you have some like really big thing you want to talk about and you've never talked to your partner, which I feel like that's most people, you don't have to say it all at once. You can start with, I just want to test the waters here. Are you interested in talking more about our sex life? I want you to know that I've never done this before with a partner, and I'm hoping that you can join me. I was listening to this wonderful podcast, and I realized something that we've never done. And then you can see if your partner's game. Are they down? And you have to remember that when we're having these conversations about sex, it's a really good, it's good to know that your partner might go on the defensive, because most people have never talked about sex. They might immediately go to, what have I done wrong? I'm not a great lover to you. Right. You don't love my body. My penis is, problematic. My body's, whatever it is, they might go on the defensive. So I think you have to say, I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I just think it's something that together we could really learn to be great lovers. And you might have to call them a few times and just say, would you be open to it? And see what they say. And then you come back to it again. You come back to it again, and you keep talking, and you keep learning, and keep growing. But again, I want to say, once you get to the other side of it and you clear the runway of all the stress, trauma, shame, and these are the pleasure thieves, as I call them, you clear those out, well, then you really make room for pleasure. Yeah. And that's what your sex life should be about, not so much suffering.
Yes. Yeah, I'd love to talk about, so the roadblocks to pleasure, would those be the thieves? Okay.
The thieves are stress, trauma, and shame. I've identified those as being the things that are stealing our pleasure.
Yeah. Do you find that women and men, if we're in a heterosexual relationship, or even if you're in non-heterosexual, I guess, do you find that the two sexes have differences in the way that those present, and there are common themes?
I do. I used to think that we were all a lot different. Men and women were a lot more different, but men are shut down and women, but there's a lot of stereotypes around that, where I think that it kind of does present in very similar ways once you drill down. I mean, stress is stress. If you're stressed or anxious about work or money or something going on in your life, you're going to withdraw. You're going to disassociate. It's really hard when we're in our parasympathetic nervous system and we are in fight or flight to also feel pleasure. Like, it's really hard for the two to coexist. And so I think that they do present. I mean, trauma is a little bit different. I think that a lot of us we're not even aware that we are in trauma, or that we've had a traumatic experience, which, by the way, most of us do. Whether it's a big T or a little t, most of us have experienced some kind of trauma that's going to cause us to not be living in our bodies. A lot of us walk around and our bodies are not a very safe place. Yeah. And so when you're walking around not loving your body, not feeling safe, maybe having some unresolved trauma, where is the room for pleasure? Like, how are you going to all of a sudden get turned on when you walk in the door if all day long you were literally walking around not feeling safe in your body, not loving your body, feeling like you don't look the way you want, you don't feel the way you want, and then we're supposed to be ready to go for sex? How hard is that? We set ourselves up for failure every single day.
It's huge.
It's true.
It's huge.
How I don't know if you've had this particular experience, but if you had, I would love to hear, but also people that you've worked with, how would you make the body a safe place to be for sex?
The body, breathing, so I can tell you a few things. And then I also want to go back to when you asked about the things that are keeping us, because there are very specific things like medication and all these things that we can talk about, the very specific things that's keeping us from having great plus, but these are like the higher level stress, trauma, shame. How could we feel safer in our bodies is a lot of the calming our nervous system. I think that's it's a really big part of it, that when, for example, I'll start with breath work. When we breathe, we are the reason why that works is we are stimulating our vagus nerve, and our vagus nerve is part of regulating, taking us from parasympathetic to sympathetic, which is the calming state we want to be in. So I would say that anytime you feel stress or trauma, but I actually do it during sex. So how do I do it with my partner? He knows. I mean, that, I'll say, God, I want to be turned on right now. Sometimes we'll start having sex. And I'm like, I don't even know how we got here. Like, we're making out, the clothes are coming off. I'm not there. I was like, babe, can we breathe for a minute? He's like, sure. So we'll stop and we'll face each other, wherever stage we're at. Sometimes we'll do this, the lotus position, which is sort of the position where you wrap your legs around each other on the bed. And we'll just look and take 5-10 deep breaths. It's an amazing reset. Because not only, maybe he was in his phase, I've got to keep going here and I'm doing my thing, but we just reset and we are immediately we're together. We are calm, we have connected, and it's a reset. We are pressing reset. Whatever kind of sex was happening 5 minutes earlier is just we are on a level playing field, and we can start from here. The other thing about breathing is also it helps when you start to look into each other's eyes as well. So when you look into each other's eyes and sometimes if you even just start with eye contact, that can be a place to start. You'll realize that your breath also starts to regulate as a byproduct of eye contact. So that's how I start to feel really safe. This might sound silly, but I found that a lot of things, it's so easy to find out what we don't want. A lot of times the process of finding out what we don't want gets to what we do want. So how I found to figure out what I need to be ready for sex, because there's so many things that make me not in the mood for sex. So if it's cold, if I walk into my partner's house and we started dating and it was cold, which it often was, he lives on the west side, I was like, I'm freezing, the heat's not on. My body has frozen. So I'm in fight or flight. I'm contracting. And I am not going to be in the mood for sex at all. Yeah. If the sheets aren't clean, if I need an environment, I need all these contextual things to be going on for me to feel in the mood. And my partner wants that. So now I notice, I get home now, we live together, it's the space heaters are on and he's made everything, he's made the bed. And I love that, because also it's showing that he cares and that he listens. And so that makes me feel safe. That makes me feel ready. I know that I am with a partner that I trust. Trust is so underrated. Huge. Whether it's a friendship, a partnership, or in a love relationship, that there have been so many studies that have shown time and time again that women are more likely to have better sex, have more pleasure, have more orgasms when they feel safe with a partner. And it could even be a one-night stand. It doesn't have to be, or a few months you're with the relationship with someone. But when you feel that I can't quite relax my body, how are you going to be able to activate your pleasure centers? Yes. It just they don't exist. So those are some of the ways I do it.
That was something.
The trust is huge.
Yeah, that was something I didn't realize when I was younger, in my 20s, where my body was just no. And there was definitely a distrust in what this person's intention was, or just if we had kind of a casual, some sort of situationship, there was something definitely going on where I wasn't trusting this person or just picking up on something, and my body would respond, and I either wouldn't be able to orgasm, or I just wouldn't be experiencing any pleasure in sex. And so I just think it's so important as women, especially, that we really do listen to our bodies, and trust, not that this person's bad, but trust this feeling, so that maybe there's a little bit more depth that we need to get to with a person in order to feel comfortable.
Yeah. I think too, it's I think women, we're like, okay, maybe I need more lube, or maybe I need to be more in my body, or maybe I need to have more body confidence, or maybe I need to put on laundry. You look at all these things on the periphery, but really it could just be you don't trust the person that you're with. Exactly. You just don't actually really trust them to be able to hold your body or your energy. I mean, I've had sex one time without someone I trust when I was very young, and that taught me, I was I'm never having sex with someone that doesn't see me. And I think as women, we psychically can tell if a man sees us, and he doesn't need to see me where he's I see that's my wife, I see that's someone I want to be with for the rest of my life. But when they see you enough to respect you, and to feel safe with energetically, I mean, that's the go for me. And I think we all have what makes us feel safe might be different.
Exactly. And knowing your body, like you were saying, like we know it's like women's intuition, like we know embodiment, that's a big part of it too. Is like, we know when you're embodied, when you truly are, and again, embodiment is not a state that you arrive at. You're constantly trying to be embodied, feet on the floor and breathing. What am I seeing in the environment? But that practice of being at home in our body and real, like your body, I always say, like, is it a hell yes or a hell no? And I was a new thing I've been doing, which I have not talked about this publicly or not.
Let's do it.
But it's so you know, like, is it a hell yes or a hell no? I look at something, I'm like, is it a vagina blast? Like, is my vagina blasting or is it contracting? So even like little things, like now we'll joke about it. Like even my team, like, is it a V blast? I'm like, because if you take a moment, you're like, am I feeling this right now or am I not? It's you can tell right away.
Yeah.
So when you're having sex, when you're thinking about it, like, is this person someone that you're excited to see? Are they making you feel good all throughout your body so you can be present in mind? Or is it making you feel, is it constricting?
Yes.
And there's just nothing wrong with you. I think, again, I said that and I think we were saying this, but like, I feel like with women, there's nothing wrong with you if you feel contracted with someone.
No.
It doesn't mean you're not like a liberated woman. It doesn't mean that you're someone that's afraid of your pleasure. It doesn't mean, all of these things. It can just truly mean that this isn't the person that you need to open up with.
Yes.
Exactly.
And have sex with.
Yes.
That's totally it. And I want to say that something else I learned that I write about in the book, I was realizing, like, I used to think that if I started having sex with someone, it was my duty to finish. I couldn't stop it. That like it was started giving him a blowjob or started having sex with them. It had to happen. Like, it was disrespectful. It was like going to someone's house
to make him finish.
To make him finish.
Oh yeah, what do you mean?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
like, oh, I'm a good girl.
I was going to hell if I did.
Exactly. I'm legit.
I've never, honestly, huge failure. I would cry. Like, it was like,
Totally.
I'm disgusting.
Totally.
I'm ugly if it didn't finish.
Right.
Crazy.
And like, they're not going to finish for a million reasons that literally have nothing to do with you. So let me just say that.
Yes.
But also, it's okay to leave. Like, to me, it was akin to like, I'm at someone's house for dinner and I left before appetizer or left after appetizers. Yes. But I want to say that everybody has permission. I just want to let people know that if you get more in touch with your body through these practices, you'll realize when it's a V, your V is contracting. Like, it's okay to say. And also, sometimes let's slow down. Let's reset for a minute. I feel like this is moving. Like, I wish when I was younger, I would have, said like, you know what, it's not just a no, it's like a slow down. I think that sex went so fast.
Yes.
And just like, their clothes were off and I was like, I like the kissing. Can we go back to that for a minute? Yeah. So those are some of the things I just wish that I wish I'd known about regulation and slowing down and that we're both driving the ship. It wasn't just my partner in charge.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think when we were younger, just on the point of the moving fast, I think when in movies you saw them making out, slamming each other against a door, rushing to the bed to rip each other's clothes off. It was the fastest journey to sex ever. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what I thought. It was like, okay, we need to be like just moving so quickly to have sex, and having slow sex almost for me, I think, felt too intimate for what my nervous system was capable of. Because there's an intimacy to slowness. It's like, because you're choosing. You're like, I'm conscious, we're choosing. I'm conscious, we're choosing. We're going to do this dance together. And I've realized over time that when I'm speeding through sex, it's like I'm foregoing the actual true intimacy of it. That is actually the spiritual practice of sex rather than physical.
Yes,
100%. So true. And sometimes it is fast, sometimes it's slow, and it's all of it's okay.
Yeah, totally. Y'all know I am someone that loves to travel. I love to explore. I love to see new places. I love spas, and I love a good hotel. Let me make it clear, I am a bit of a snob when it comes to my stay. I think people like to spend money or time or energy in certain places, whether they're like a big foodie or whether they like to do really big grand activities or they like their stay. I am someone that really, really prioritizes where I stay. I want to make sure the decor feels good. I want to make sure the staff is friendly. I want to make sure it feels elevated and chic, that it's in a good location, that I feel safe, that there are things to do, that the food feels good. And so you can count on your girl, who travels quite a bit, to be your guide for all things related to quality stays, hotels, and resorts. And I don't know if you followed me on Instagram, but me and my friend Courtney, we did an amazing trip and stay for a few nights at the Seabird Resort. It is in Southern California and it is incredible. It's in Oceanside, so it was really easy to get to from LA. Super easy to get to from San Diego. really, really in a great, secluded, chill location. And we spent a day at their spa, which was incredible. So it was Sunny Spa and Beauty Lounge, which is at the Seabird Resort in Oceanside. And it was a short drive or train ride from LA and downtown San Diego, like I said. So it was really, really easy to get to. And it was super bright and gorgeous, and you could tell everything was new. I had the most amazing treatment there. It was incredible. I had a facial, which was so good. And then I had this really beautiful body treatment where they used sound therapy. She gave me a good massage and there was a wrap. It was just incredible. It was so much fun for my friend Courtney and I to just cruise down for the day, spend the day pampering, doing self-care, connecting, having so much fun, and staying at the resort. I also really love the food. So that's really, really key for me. There's actually a bunch of places in LA that are nice hotels, but actually don't have really healthy quality food. So for me, it's really important that they have healthy quality food. And I loved everything I ate. Their breakfast was bomb there. I felt like it was so healthy. I got this like skillet with eggs and a great matcha and a juice. And me and Courtney were like actually going crazy because it was so good. So their food is really incredible. The spa is really good. Like I said, it's both traditional and holistic. So it's full service. It has classic massages, innovative treatments, and a full service beauty lounge. You can chill outside by the fires. You can walk around Oceanside. The ocean is literally right there, right outside your door. We went on walks in the morning, walks in the evening, took her little dog for a walk. They were so friendly to her dog, who's my favorite thing on earth. They gave us little outfits. They gave him a little bandana. It was just incredible. So I'm really excited for you guys to try. I would love if you spent a day for the spa just to like enjoy yourself because you guys deserve it. So use code ALMOST30 to get 20% off the treatment, services, and retail at the spa. So at Sunny Spa and Beauty Lounge, which is at the Seabird Resort, you can get 20% off. So that's really incredible. Treat yourself. Almost 30 for 20% off at the Seabird Resort. Enjoy yourself. Have so much fun and send me pics when you go. Okay, so let me walk you through my morning routine in this moment. As soon as I wake up and my cats have woken me up, say 5 a.m., starving, I will put my hand over my heart and do a little gratitude. I'll have some prayer before I get up out of bed. And the first thing that I do after grabbing my gratitude journal and doing prayer is I will have a glass of lemon water and seed. I will have it on an empty stomach, which feels really, really nice. It really helps me start my day off on the right foot. It's actually recommended that you take Seed's DS1 Daily Symbiotic on an empty stomach. Everyone is different, but this is a rule of thumb. So 30 minutes before your first meal or 2 hours after your last meal, it supports your health and your gut in a way that is almost hard for me to describe because it's supporting my gut microbiome. It's really helped me to have more regular poops, which feels amazing. If you've ever been someone that hasn't been regular, when you are regular, it's a game changer. It's helped me support smoother, clearer, more vibrant skin. And I've just felt an overall boost in my mood and energy and just a more vibrant life because I know that there are so many different systems in my body that are being supported through a healthy gut. Seed's DS1 Daily Symbiotic is really easy to incorporate in my routine because regardless of where I am, and you all know that I travel so much, I can take the DS1 with me. Their ViaCap delivery technology, that prebiotic outer capsule, in the inner probiotic capsule design, protects the live bacteria from any external or internal environments. So I love that I can maintain my morning routine with Seed, and I know that the quality of the probiotics are going to be safe in the cap. There's some probiotics we have to put in the fridge or kind of have specific ways they need to be handled, but Seed you can take anywhere, and I make sure to do that. Seed has these really powerful probiotic strains that have been shown to promote healthy skin and reinforce a healthy gut-skin axis. So for me, that was my priority, really getting glowing skin and regularity, and it has done that in a major way. I would love for you to try Seed. I feel like it's such a great foundation to your health and wellness routine, to feeling good, to looking good, to feeling vibrant and feeling like yourself. And I'm really excited because we have a 30% off discount, which is huge. So 30% off your first month of Seed, their daily DS1 Daily Symbiotic. You can go to seed.com/almost30, use code almost30 to get 30% off. So that's seed.com/almost30, use code almost30 to get 30% off. Seed.com/almost30,
Use code ALMOST30 to get 30% off your first month. Let me know if you love it. Let me know how it's going. Let me know how regular it is. And enjoy trying Seed.
I wanted to go back to what's keeping us from pleasure.
Okay.
So you mentioned briefly, but like a medication, kind of the things that are a little more granular, but that we might not be realizing are keeping us from pleasure.
I think, I love this conversation because I just feel like people don't realize it's like hidden in plain sight. And so, because we just think, oh God, something's wrong with me. Like, I want to help people like decode it. Like, for example, you might not be in the mood for sex or having orgasms because you're on a medication. So many people are on antidepressants, your birth control pill, blood pressure medication. So those are just some things that are like, that could absolutely impact your libido. And that's something you talk to your doctor about. I'm not saying go off your medication, but there's so many ways to work with it. And historically, our doctors didn't tell us these things, didn't prioritize anyone's sexual health. I'd say women's sexual health, but anyone's sexual health. It could be nutrition, the foods that we're eating. It could be exercise. People are just always very surprised that there's a link between all of these things, which might seem sort of obvious to some, but if you haven't been moving your body, you're eating a lot of food, it's all about, because blood flow, orgasms and arousal is about blood flow. So your blood will not be flowing to your genitals if you have not been moving your body, or you've been smoking or drinking or doing a lot of things in excess. Absolutely going to affect your ability to be aroused. If you have resentments that have built up in your relationship and you just have not addressed it with your partner yet, I mean, another reason why you're not going to be in the mood for sex. If you have unhealed trauma, that every time you start to have sex with someone, you freeze, you shut down in your body, you're having flashbacks, whatever, even if it wasn't a sexual trauma, but just all the different kinds of traumas that we have that you probably are displaying in other relationships, but particularly in your personal relationships. So, unresolved traumas, or even just, resentments with your partner
are huge.
Huge.
I think the food thing is interesting. It's also like taking care of your body. Like my sex and my ability to have sex is directly correlated to how good I feel about myself and my body. And that is the movement. That is the nutrition. That is treating my body well so that I can be like, okay, I'm feeling good. Like I treat you well. I love you. Like someone else can treat me well and love me too.
And also advocating for just around eating. It's like I never want to do it after like a nice big meal.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Sushi.
But I have to.
Was that you that said that?
No, but
I said sushi's the best first date because it's light.
Just kind of a few pieces. But I had to kind of start to think about, okay, so you don't like to have sex after a meal. So after we come home from dinner and it's like late night and whatever. So what do I have to advocate for or ask for in order to be able to optimize like when we're having sex and obviously enjoying it? And it was whether it's like first thing in the morning or it's like during the day, like on the weekend.
During the day.
I love daytime because I have the energy.
Yes.
Night, I'm very tired.
Yeah. Anytime past 6 is done.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that you're asking this because when is the right time for sex? This is what I've been thinking lately. We have to reverse engineer this because so many of us are setting ourselves up for failure because we're thinking it's going to spontaneously happen at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
No, we're not in the mood, right? Unless you're like I don't even know when you're in it. Maybe early in a relationship. I was going to say in your early 20s or in college or whatever. But the truth is, after a while in any relationship, you're like, oh my God, I just want to go to bed. I'm tired. So finding the ideal time that is right for sex. So you got to reverse engineer it. So it's okay if you know it's never going to be after 9, it's never going to be after dinner. Have sex before dinner.
Yeah.
Make the time to have sex before you go out, before you walk the dogs, before you put the kids to bed, not after, because you're going to be tired. And this is for couples, like strategize it, like in real time. Like I've done this as well in my relationship. I'm doing all these things. He's like, okay, so I've come to find out that like we get in bed at 11, you're not going to want to do it at 11:30. I'm like, never. Majority of times I'm not. I'm like, it's during the days, it's on the weekends. Like, and there's no one saying that it has to be at night. Just because in movies and television we see it happening late at night after a big meal, not going to happen. So I really want to think about it, and then think about reverse engineering it, knowing that I definitely want to be sexual and have sex with my partner. What can I do to make it? Now I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, maybe it's been a week or it's been 5 days. Well, that's not okay. Like I know that we need that connection. It's not okay for either one of us. So what will it look like over the next week? Like literally planning ahead, scheduling the sex, thinking what is going to be the ideal time. And for a lot of people, and there have been studies that have shown that women are more likely to want sex mid-afternoon, which isn't ideal for many people. But if you know that, then maybe it's a Saturday, maybe it's you get a babysitter, or you make sure that you have time, and like that counts. Like that's okay to find out what works best for you. and your partner, and then to talk about it with them, like so they understand. Because what happens when we don't talk about this stuff, going back to the top of this conversation, is that most of us don't talk about it. So we walk around feeling so much, we feel resentful, we feel shame, we feel like our partner doesn't want us. Because let's say you're with a partner who every night they try to have sex with you every night at 11. And you just keep saying no, you say no, and you don't put any words around it. You just say no. Your partner thinks they're not lovable, they've done something wrong, you're mad at them, that maybe they just resent you because, like, how do you not care about our sex life? Are you not turned on? Something wrong with you? So putting words around and saying, instead of just turning, and here's another tip, instead of just turning your partner down and saying no again, think about why not, and think about when you might want to in the future. Babe, this week is going to be really tough. Right now, I'm just feeling exhausted. We had that big meal. Chicken Parmesan does not do well with sex for me. But I'm thinking that Saturday night, we know we're going out for sushi, or we know that we have a late reservation. Let's try to shower before, whatever it is. Let's try to have some time between 5 and 8 where we can just kind of hang out around the house, maybe build a fire, have sex, and then go to dinner. Would that be so fun Saturday night? And get them going, okay, so they're not going to try again on Thursday. They're not going to try again on Friday. You're not going to feel bad and resentful, but you've made it clear that it's intentional, that it's a priority for you, and when it's going to happen.
Yes.
So setting expectations.
I love that too. It's like painting a picture.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's so important, I think, some people might be listening to this and thinking oh, it's taking the sexy out of it. It's taking the spontaneity out of it. But really, I found it helps so much because it's taking the guesswork and kind of the unsaid out of, or the assumptions out of your partner's mind. The partner might be being man, maybe I just don't do it for her anymore, or vice versa. And to have that clarity, and even if it might seem a little planned and scheduled, once you're in it, you're fuck yeah.
Right.
This is great.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
And you can schedule it. You don't need to schedule what position you're doing or what you're saying or what you're wearing. It's we're just giving this window of time.
Yes.
And then we can be freaking whatever, doing whatever we want.
Exactly. Because sex is an event. It's an activity that takes time and takes preparation. So I want to normalize that. But also, I want to address that. This whole it's not sexy. If people really, I want people to take a minute who are thinking that, because everyone thinks that. Many people, when I say schedule sex, oh great, I want to look at the calendar and see pick up the dry cleaning, get my car filled with gas, and have sex.
I'm yes.
It's
not on my calendar. It's not happening.
Exactly. But for some people, it's not hot. But really, how hot is it? How hot is it after the first 6 months to 2 years where the honeymoon phase takes a nosedive, which it does? That is biology, and it is not going to be at a sustained level where you're ripping each other's clothes up every day. So knowing that, is it really that hot? Waiting to see that, that your partner just surprised you in the kitchen. How often is that really happening? And when you think about the way I'm talking about it, it's not you've had to clear out some of these blocks, but once it's totally normal like that, it just feels better. You're just okay, I'm being honest. I'm letting you know that I care for you. And that is sexy. And then the thing I want to talk about is the anticipation. Then you get to think about the sex. Then you get to shave or put on your lingerie or make the bed or do not eat a
send
huge
some sexy
meal.
texts leading up to it.
All of it. Yeah. The sexy text, right? The seduction.
I'm clean the house.
Clean the house. Right.
Light a candle.
All the things you get
Shave
to prepare
my
so you're ready.
legs. 100%.
Exactly.
I think that's huge, especially for women. I think men less. But I agree with you. Having that clarity also helps break that psychic energy that I think you have a lot in relationships where the man is okay, when is it? When are we going to do it? When I've been in heterosexual relationships, it's when are we going to do it?
Yeah.
And so it helps them, what I've experienced, feel more confident that you're not going to reject them or you're not going to say no or anything like that, because we both have this mutual understanding for when we're going to be intimate together. And you can really have the buildup, which is so nice.
It really is.
It's
I
huge.
think that can't be underestimated or underrated how much that anticipation builds to our arousal.
Love it. I want to talk about the sex IQ, the 5 pillars to sexual intelligence, because this is something special and new that you've been working on and writing about. So what was the inspiration behind it?
So the inspiration behind sex IQ was in writing the book, Smart Sex. It was really about just let me get everything that I've learned almost 20 years of doing this work on paper and divide it into place that I can just kind of give my best tips, my best advice so people can have it in their hand. And that was great. And I love that test. But when I was writing it, I was I really want to empower people. Like, how is it that every day after 20 years, I'm still getting the very same questions? Like, every day there's someone who has an orgasm, who feels bad that their partner wants more sex than they do, or they want more sex than their partner. Someone who feels shame about their body. Someone who doesn't know how to talk to their partner about sex, like doesn't know how to ask for what they want. It's literally tens of thousands of questions that have been the same. I'm like, what if I can't always be there? I can't always be there answering all the questions. How can I put the power in people's hands to answer their own questions about sex? So it really, I had a download. I was writing the book and I was like meditating, and all of a sudden I saw these 5 pillars, and it kind of came to me of how to divide them and put them down. And I divided it into these 5 pillars of sexual intelligence. And sexual intelligence is not about arriving to a place where you are checked off the list. I'm done with that. It's something that you are consistently like kind of working at and balancing, and that's okay too. It's like your health, right? You're never just like, I'm arrived to this healthy place. I drank enough water today. I worked out. I took my supplements, and and then the next day you don't. So that's what it is about sexual intelligence and sex IQ, is monitoring it. Again, it's it's sort of a new paradigm for thinking about sex. So the 5 pillars came to me as a way to, and I can give you an example of how to like look at them.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
So
what are the pillars too?
Okay, so the pillars, the first one is embodiment. So how embodied am I?
Yeah.
How well am I aware of what's happening in the moment? Do I have a sense of knowing what I'm feeling? Am I connected to my body? Am I able to do that during sex, or do I disassociate? So am I an embodied person? And I give exercises for people to become more embodied. And then the second one is just health, your mental health and your physical health. Are you taking certain medications? Are you moving your body? Do you have unhealed trauma? These are all going to impact your ability to have more pleasure.
Yeah.
The third one is self-knowledge. How well do I know myself? And I keep notes in my phone. I encourage everyone to do this as well. But do I know, like I said, do I know that it has to be warm in the house? Do I know that I like dirty talk or I don't like dirty talk? We all have knowledge about what's worked for us sexually and what hasn't worked for us. So how well do I know myself? We all have years of knowledge for how long we've been having sex. Do we know and acknowledge what we need to do about ourselves to have great sex? Do we understand our patterns and what feels good? Then the fourth one is self-acceptance. Do I accept where I'm at today? Do I accept my body, at least the best that I can? Do I work on, my confidence? If I look between my legs, if I take in a mirror, if I accept my body, do I know my body? And then, which again is always a moving target, but all of these things, we just try to get them a little bit higher all the time, or work on them a little bit, so we can be at a place where we can start to have more pleasure. And then the fifth one is collaboration. How well do I communicate with my partner what I want without shame? How well do I work on my resentments? Am I clear? Do I articulate? Do I have a partner that's willing to, come along the journey with me? So those are the 5 pillars. And in the book, I give a lot of tools and exercises for people to kind of master those or get deeper in those, so they can work on becoming more sexually intelligent and aware and present.
And so if someone is feeling just off and maybe just wanting to experience more sex, more pleasure in their relationship, what they would do is kind of run through and just kind of do a little bit of a check on the health of each one of these pillars.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I do it myself. And I keep using these examples because I wrote a book for myself, for someone that I would want to do, and for people that I know. Like, that's just like there have been times with my partner, I'm like, I'm not in the mood for sex. I'm rather thinking like all the things that I might thought of before. Now I have like a controlled way to think, okay, so am I ovulating? No. Not, I already have my period, so that's not it, because that could also impact it, knowing your cycle.
Sure.
That's part of self-knowledge. Oh, every time I get my period, I'm more turned on or less turned on, or more wet or less wet. How well do I know? Okay, so no, and I'm good. Okay, so I know that, and I'll run through the things, and I'll think, okay, am I healthy? Because for me, working out is big. If I worked out today, that's great. Okay, self-acceptance. Oh God, I haven't been feeling great in my body lately, let's say, or I've noticed that there's been like a change, or I have some whatever's happening. So maybe that would be one of the things that I just haven't been feeling great in my body. Or maybe I have resentments because I haven't collaborated with my partner lately. Like for me, I realize that sometimes all 4 are. So I might just run through them, and I might think like, okay, so health and wellness is good. I've checked my medication. I've been working out. Let's just say that. My first one is embodiment. Yes, I've been meditating. I'm feeling good. And then I might get to collaboration, the 5th one, and say, wow, you know what? I'm not feeling attracted to my partner right now. Is it me? Is it him? Oh, you know what? I'm still resentful because of what happened last time we had sex or last week when this thing happened. And then I'm like, oh, that's the loudest right now. Let me work on that and then see if my libido comes back. Then let me see if I get more aroused. So I do that. I can do that with my partner. And this is just kind of like a tool that you can work through to be like, why can't I, for example, like you could come to me and say like, I can't have an orgasm, which happens often. And I could, for every person, everyone would have a different reason why they can't have an orgasm, right? It's not a quick, everyone has to solve it for themselves, or definitely call into my show. I'm still there for people, but it's like if someone has anxiety, I might tell one person might be helped by doing a meditation practice, and the other person needs to stop drinking caffeine.
Right.
They might need to, heal a toxic relationship at work, and then they have less stress. So again, there's not a quick fix for any of these things, but with sex, because there's still so much mystery around it and so much misinformation. Like if you Google it, it's really hard to get accurate sex information or quick bites on TikTok. So it's a more in-depth psychological process to help people get the quick fix that they want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Quicker fix that they're in charge of.
I could see our amazing community of perfectionists also looking at this and being like, well, I'm not embodied. I'm not self-accepting. I'm not, I don't know. You know what I mean? Almost like almost thinking incorrectly that they're not doing any of these because the bar is perfection.
Oh my God. I love you about this.
With the health thing, I could see them being like, eating super well, but it's not enough. And then bringing that to this again and using it as a way to be like, I'm still not enough.
I love that you said this, because I am I go through this as well. But this is an area that's so new to people that they could feel like, oh, great, now I got to get all embodied every day. It's just a tiny, it's like, it could be like, I'm going to take 5 minutes to meditate in this. It could be, your embodiment could be like, I'm going to be with a partner that before I see them, I remember to breathe. On the way here, I have a breathing app I do for 3 minutes before I do something or perform or talk to somebody. Or it could be like, I'm going to get embodied for 3 minutes. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to take 10 deep breaths. That could be it. That could be it for the day that you breathe. The second one could be like, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that, I'm in therapy right now. I'm actually talking to somebody. So that feels pretty good for me, for my mental health, my physical health. Yeah, I worked out more this week than I didn't. That feels pretty good. So I'm telling you, I'm not perfect at this. I do this all the time for myself too. So you don't get to a place, you never get to check this off the list. You're never there. So I would just say at least being aware, because I guarantee you're listening right now and there's something that in your life, like, you're not feeling turned on, your partner's not doing it for you. So even just tackling one of these and saying like, maybe it's more about like knowing that these are 5 factors that you could work with. You could just say, I realize that I suck at all of them right now. I feel that I do. But the one that hurts the most is collaboration. So maybe you look at all of them, you're like, not embodied. I'm on too many medications to feel anything right now. I hate my body and I'm not, but collaboration is the worst, because I realize that my partner and I have never talked about sex. So I'm going to tackle that one. I'm going to that's the one that hurts the most though, because I feel like if I could only talk to my partner about, so maybe that's the one you look at today. And then you start to slowly get more self-aware around all of them.
Yeah. Love
kind of
that.
flip it any way you want.
It is. It's like, it's like looking at what is the worst, or it's like what, you know what I mean? From both perspectives, you can really,
and I'm sure
can really say that.
One can support or help
They
to
do.
increase the other.
Yeah.
They're all linked to each other. They're all linked. And so that's part of the book. That's one chapter. Then the rest is my best tips for oral sex, anal sex, communication through the lens of how are you doing in all of these different pillars. So
let's get into
it's all
it.
the things. How much time do we have?
I know. I had a question just about, because you brought up an example in what we were just talking about attraction to a partner. And so I'm curious, if someone is feeling less attracted to their partner, all of a sudden, or maybe it's kind of been a slow build, whether their partner has changed physically or maybe in other ways. I guess what would you recommend someone do?
The ick.
The ick.
I love how you just cut to it. Both of you are so good. The ick. The ick is real, but the ick is not one thing. It's usually not what you think.
Yeah.
So maybe, yes, your partner's, their physical appearance has changed a little bit, or they said something that really annoyed you. But usually the ick is compounding a lot of factors. So that's when you get to kind of unpack it and think about, first of all, what's your part in it? Because you always have a part in it. It's not like your partner just all of a sudden changed. Sometimes that's convenient. But I think there's a lot underneath it, the ick. And again, these pillars can kind of help you too to look at like, well, what is it? Like, what haven't I said? What haven't they said? And also, like, let's say it is the appearance thing, because I get that a lot. Usually there's an underlying thing happening. Maybe your partner was really in great shape, taking care of themselves, and you realize that they stopped. They've lost their job. They've been on the couch. They've lost respect for themselves. And then there's a real that they're not showing up for themselves. They're not showing up for you. And so then you might start to lose a little bit of respect for them, but you still love them. So you might be looking at the appearance part of it, but usually it's something else going on. Yeah. So how can you be a better partner for them? I think it's a lot easier to just ick and go with that and leave a relationship than it is to stay and work. And one of the greatest lessons I learned in therapy in my early 30s was like, I had a pattern of being in relationships and always wanting to leave the second it got. That's one of the reasons I started this. I was like, when I'm not attracted to the person, I'm out. Like, I really did not know. And we're talking like 32 years old. I did not know that pretty much in every relationship, there's going to come an effect. There's going to come a time where you are less attracted. You're not in the mood for sex. It's not going to be as hot as it was in the beginning. But I thought it meant that you bailed and looked for something shinier and prettier.
Too. Yeah.
I didn't know. And then my therapist was like, why don't you just stay a little bit? Stay in the discomfort and work on it. And I'd already been in therapy for years, but I didn't know. I'm like, leave. It's so easy. So sitting in the uncomfortability, kind of going deeper, like, what is this? What's going on? And then, like, I always like, you don't want to leave a relationship until you know that you've literally done everything, because that's where the real learning and the real lessons come on. It's very easy to leave. It's a lot harder to stay, but you're going to get such deeper, profound lessons.
So true.
Huge.
Very true.
Yeah, in my last relationship, I was like, I'm going to turn myself inside fucking out.
Yes.
Until I figure out, so that I'm not repeating the same lessons and using this as like the ultimate playground for my growth and expansion, because it's so ripe for that. You know, it's like the most important thing. But I was thinking about the ick, and I was, at first when I heard about the ick, I was like, I don't think I've experienced that. And then I was thinking back to ex-boyfriends, and I had the ick with someone. I didn't have the ick in my last relationship, but you can, but there was still the connection and the desire there. And the ick came from me in relationships where either there had been infidelity, or there had been lying, or there had been something where I actually emotionally left and then physically was like leaving, where I was like, oh, I actually no longer trust you, or I no longer feel like this relationship is going anywhere, and now you're just like disgusting to me.
Usually it's compound. Yeah, it's built on other
compounding.
Things. It makes so much sense.
It never was physical for me. It was always like,
yeah,
you're no longer a man to me. You're no longer in this role for me as someone like I desire.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
it's kind of sad though, because it's kind of sad because I feel like the ick is discussed in the lens of women looking at men, and actually like a way to like look down and degrade men. But I think if men were talking about women with the ick, I don't think that would fly right now.
It wouldn't. It really wouldn't. Especially
people would be
right
like,
now.
oh fucking, which is not that I'm saying we should be saying the ick for others, but it's just an interesting thing, because I'm like, I've only heard women be okay to talk about it about men.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that, I guess, with this stuff. But yeah, you're right. It is, and usually it's I love what you said about turning yourself inside out, because I think that's such a great lesson before you get the ick. When you get the ick, I think it's you move towards
Beyond.
it, not away from it, right?
Yes.
How can you turn yourself? Because then you did everything, but how much do you learn from that?
So
going
much.
deeper, because it also helps you in other relationships too.
It's huge.
Realizing
It's
like
huge.
that I don't know, like our greatest work
Because
is
it's all
done in
you.
relation.
It's
yes.
it's you. It's not the other person. And even if the other person isn't our participant, you can figure out and see what this is showing for you and what this is bringing up for you. But in the end, I had to stop turning myself inside out because I was going to die and bleed out. So I had to kind of take the power back there. But I do think it's a really good practice for people within relationships to actually stay long enough to really understand the lessons of it, rather than to go, because it will most likely come up again.
Yeah,
over time. It does.
The lessons that are you keep repeating them over and over and over and over again until you're like, okay, enough. I'm going to learn lessons right now. And I think that was a lesson I was saying, that I would just go from one to the next, and I would have kept doing that until I was like, okay, you got to stay. And that's how you switch the patterns. That's how you stop the patterns.
Yes.
You
and
stay.
that is this relationship or ones before?
Before this.
Okay,
years
good.
before I started the show too. I just would go from one to when the therapist was like, can you kind of stay and kind of figure it out?
Wow.
And I was like, really? But there's all these reasons why it's wrong and it's not going to work. And eventually it didn't work, but I stayed longer than I would have, and I learned so much in that. Just like, again, I had a part in it. Imagine that. Like, if you think that you don't have a part, even if someone cheated on you, even if someone did the most horrific thing, you have a part in it.
100%.
100%. You are there. There's two in a relationship. And that is like right now, I just want to say to people, like, get into therapy if you think that you've never been fallible. You've never had any part in any relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a work relationship, whether your boss was crazy and all these things. Like, you also have a part in things that have happened and in every relationship, because you are in relation to someone else.
Yes. What about me created this experience?
Yes.
Or what within me, or what wound, etc. within me created this? Yeah.
So many wounds,
Which is
so little
huge.
time.
I know, literally. I wanted to talk about, just kind of before we talk about non-monogamy, I wanted to ask about your journey and path. You've tried a lot of different things. What has been something that you tried that didn't work for you? Whether
In
it was
relationships or
in
sexually?
relationships or sexually, where you're like, okay, I'm going to try this because this is kind of my show, this is kind of my thing, and you were like, this is absolutely not for me.
I would say what didn't work. I mean, I guess at the time, I think being in an open relationship worked until it didn't. And it was just like really fun at the time. I was really busy and I was dating a guy for like a year and we were open and seeing other people. But then I realized that I really love intimacy and I love the safety of a partner, like one partner. And I wanted a lot more depth with somebody if and when I ever was going to open it up. So I think I did it in a way that was like, oh, we're casual and we're each other's primary. And it just didn't work for me. Yeah. So I would say that I love relationships, which I didn't in the past, but now I really do. I love being in a relation to someone.
Recently, Lindsay and I did a 3-part workshop series on the breakup process. So if you've been listening to the show, you know that I've gone through my own breakup journey this year. I was with someone for 10 years, recently went through a breakup, and it has been the most powerful, magnetic, crazy portal of my life. And it has been something that has transformed me in the most profound way. I know there's so many people that are going through their own breakup season, whether it's with a best friend or a partner or a family member. It is definitely that time. And I've noticed so many breakups in the collective and in our community. Lindsay and I wanted to support you in this process. So in this very exclusive, amazing workshop that feels very unique to Lindsay and I's teaching, we walk you through the 3 stages of this beautiful time in your life, this invitation. And the first part of that process is the letting go. So how do you know when it's time to let go? Is it worth it to let go? How do you know when making an effort to make it work is just delaying your alignment? In the second stage of the invitation, we talk about the breakup process and the actual processing process. So how do you approach the conversation to break up? What do you say? What do you not say? How do you make yourself proud in the whole process? And then we talk about actually processing that in conversation and how you can really empower yourself in the future. The third stage of the invitation is the new beginning. So often at this stage, there's more unknown than ever. It can be really scary, but it inevitably means that there's actually more opportunity and possibility than ever. So this can be really you laying the foundation for a life that you love, a life of empowerment, a life of your dreams, a life of relationships that feel aligned to you. It's just the best. So this workshop series, available at almost30.com, helps you with tactical steps to follow in the letting go and breakup processes, helps you renew your trust in your intuition. It gets you excited about the path ahead. It helps you understand the energetics of a breakup. It gives you practices for forgiveness and really gives you the confidence to approach this process with heart and clarity. So to get the invitation workshop series, or maybe even give it to a friend to support them in this breakup process, this new life that you're building, you can go to almost30.com/the-invitation.
Talking about open relationships and non-monogamy, I think it's something that's so popular now. And it's something that people are so curious about. You know, I have friends that are open and married. I have friends that are non-monogamous. I have a lot of people that are exploring that type of container. What would you say about it? I guess for someone that's completely new to it, what is it? And what is it?
So what we talked about is we call it consensual non-monogamy, meaning that you're both consenting to being non-monogamous. It is not an excuse to cheat. People think, oh, great, you just want to be non-monogamous because I can't tell you, I was posting on my Instagram. You're like, oh, yeah, for cheaters, for sex addicts. Like, it's literally for people who are like, the people who are the most successful at being consensually non-monogamous being. There's all these different ways to do it. You know, you could be open, you could be swinging, you could go to sex parties, you could have only threesomes. There's a lot of different ways to slice it. But it's the couples who have the most trust, the most honesty. They are open about everything, and they realize that, and they're on a really solid ground sexually. People are not opening up their relationship because they want to spice it up. You're not opening up because you're bored with your sex life. You're not opening it up because your partner wants to and you don't want to. The couples who are successful with non-monogamy, they practice rigorous honesty. They talk about this for months and months, and maybe they have a therapist come in. It's years. I mean, couples I know that are most successful have talked about it for a very long time. They've weighed the pros and cons. They have boundaries. They have limitations. They might say, it can't be anyone that we know. It has to be someone that doesn't live in our city. You know, it has to be someone that we only meet at a play party, which is kind of like a swinger party type thing. We can get into all of that. But there's all these different ways. And what I found in couples who are who are able to be successfully non-monogamous is it enhances their sex life because they talk about everything. They find that their partner who they love so much, you know, they experience pleasure in their partner's pleasure. And there's a word for it. It's called compersion. And couples who experience the word compersion means that taking pleasure in your partner's pleasure. Like, I love you, whether you were there and you're observing your partner have sex with someone else, that it gave me so much pleasure to see you in pleasure, or to have you come home from this date and see that I wanted that for you. Now I know I can just see your listeners being like, I'm so jealous right now.
Sometimes I go there, I'm like, can I do that? And I'm like,
nope. I don't.
It would be hard for me.
Yeah.
I honestly think in my mind that I could, but I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah. I just, I think my mind just says that, yeah, it's fine. But
And
it's
a weird, it's like, it's not a jealous feeling. What is that? Maybe it is. It's like, I don't know. I just, like you, I just love an intimate, committed relationship.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's that, like, maybe I'm associating non-monogamy with non-commitment, which is not true.
Yeah, that's true.
The thing.
So maybe that's what I'm kind of feeling.
I mean, this is your person. So how this works is they call it primary partners. So if you are non-monogamous, this is your person. Like, you are their plus one. You have children together. You have a life together. You know you're going home together. You have all the same rules and all the same things. But it's almost like, but tonight we're gonna play with someone else, or you're gonna go on a date and I'm gonna go on a date, or we're gonna go to a party. But we know that we're coming home together. Right. There's not, for many, they have rules around like having an emotional connection, which is hard to say. Like, how do you stop your emotions?
Yeah.
But really, connections, strong emotional connections come from consistency and come from frequency. So really you could say, we're going to have sex with someone else, or you're going to have sex, but it's not okay to text them every day. It's not okay to ask about where they're from and their family. Like, it's literally sex and it's playing. Sometimes we have partners who don't want the same things we do. Like, maybe I want to be tied up and my partner's like, I'm not comfortable with that. But if you go find someone who wants to tie you up and spank you, like, great. I know you're coming home to me, because we are so solid. We've even written out rules. It's very misunderstood. So it's like, if you, know that you and your partner, like, I mean, think about it in other ways too. Like, you love working out together, but like your partner wants to rock climb, and that's like the one thing. Like, you are not a rock climber. You're like, I love biking. So when you're rock climbing, I'm going to bike, but we're both coming home and taking a shower together, right? I mean, but it's just a whole. I mean, got to take people a minute to be like, oh wait, could that really happen? It's not cheating. It's not non-committal. It's not like, oh God, hope they don't fall in love with someone. I was like, I mean, of course that could happen, but really, when you have these rules around it, and I do have this. I was telling you guys that it was the last chapter in the book that I was a little bit late with it, because I was like, I've got to get this in here, because there's such a heightened interest around it and a lot of misunderstanding around it. And people get to decide. Because think about it this way. We didn't get to choose monogamy. That's really the only thing that we see. We're like, two people, you're a man and a woman, and you walk down the aisle and you're committed for life, and good luck figuring out wanting to have hot sex with each other for the rest of your life. And all these things. But for many people, it doesn't work. I mean, if 50% of marriages end in divorce and half the people stay together are unhappy, like, I'm just saying, like, let's take a look at what else might be out there. Like, be open to it. Yeah. And that might help a lot of the suffering that people have around pleasure.
Mm-hmm. For you, what was the moment where you were like, I don't know if this is going to work for me?
I think it was just... Honestly, I think it was like a time thing. Yeah. And I was like, I don't have a lot of time to be dating right now. And when I am, I want to be with someone that I know is there. And I don't want to be out having sex with a bunch of people. I can barely have time for this person. I wasn't in a time in my life where it really worked. And I think the person wasn't really right for me that I was doing it with. And Yeah, that's what it was.
That's what I always think about. I'm like, the time. Of
Who's got time?
Who's got time? When people are like, I've got 2 DOMs and I have 3 girlfriends and
I wouldn't
or
know
I have
where
3
to-
subs or whatever. I'm like, what do you work?
Do you send out like a smoke signal
Yeah.
to people?
Is there-
I'm
there's
curious.
apps
Like, are
probably.
there?
There's apps. There's some
Oh,
great
okay.
apps. There's an app called Field, F-E-E-L-D.
I've heard the best things about Field.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
So
people
many
really love
I know
Field.
love Field.
Cool.
Even apps like Bumble and Tinder
For
have like a
kinks.
have stuff for have like
Like little emojis.
another part of it. Yeah, like another part of the
Who
app.
was it that said they did something at Erewhon? There's someone was telling us recently that
Oh,
there
there's
was
like a
someone
singles night or like a
singles night at Erewhon, and you like say you want soup or something.
Oh.
And the people there. Oh my
She's
gosh!
like, I know about it.
Yes.
I'm just
In
kidding.
Florida, they say if you like a pineapple on your lawn, like a pineapple.
I've heard that too. The pineapple. Then it's like
You're in
obvious you're a
Florida.
swinger or something like
So always in
that.
Florida, right? You're a swinger. I mean, I think here's
That's
the other
fun.
thing: when you live in cities, and not all cities, but I have to tell you, I have a lot of listeners like in cities that you wouldn't, that are thriving. I remember someone from Tennessee once called me. He's like, "We had sex with 8 people last night." I'm like, "That is a good time." How did I think that once you, it's like anything. Like you have interest, the teacher will appear. Like if you're looking
Yes.
for something, maybe there's a sex toy store in your city, or maybe there's one person that you met at a party once who said they were going to a play party, as we call it now, which is typically parties that you have to be invited to, and they're for couples and single women. Usually it's not just for single men. But if you are really curious about this, and also go to my website at sexwithemily.com. We have tons of places, articles, and podcasts about this, how to find a third. But once you get into it, you'll find that you'll pretty much be able to find what you want, especially now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I feel like people are very open.
Will you say one thing, like one indicator that a couple would be good for this type of container, and one indicator that they're not?
Okay, that's a great question. I would say the couple that has they love their sex life, they continue to work on it, they've really worked really hard at fulfilling each other's fantasies, they've talked about fantasies, they've talked about they don't have a lot of jealousy, they're not like, were you home late, what were you doing flirting with I saw you flirting at the cashier, like you don't have a history of jealousy. And you've had really growth mindsets around sex, and you've maybe both talked about like having a threesome, and you practiced during sex, like being like, right, dirty talk. I always like dirty talk your threesome, like dirty talk your fantasy. And you've been able to like successfully say like, right now I'm picturing us and there's another person here and they're doing this thing to you, and you felt okay with that. It kind of turned you on. Or maybe you found some porn that you both like. I love this exercise for couples. Like find a porn scene that you both find hot and play it for each other. Because not only could that be titillating and turn on, it'd be great for some foreplay and some getting yourself both in the mood, but you're going to learn from each other. Like couples who have been kind of open sexually, and they've talked about boundaries again, and that would be a great couple to say like, why don't we go to a local play party? Why don't we just go and see how we feel just watching other people? And then you just you have excellent communication, and you're open to this, and you both want it. Because let me just say this, it's that when couples call me and they're like, or one person calls into the show or writes and says, how do I get my partner to have a threesome? How do I get my partner to open up? You're not really going to get your partner to do anything. What you can do is turn this towards your partner and get curious about what they want. What do they actually want right now? So couples who are able to fulfill each other's needs to the best of their abilities and are really satisfied, then they're more likely to open up. They'd be a great candidate. So who's not a great candidate? There's been a lot of jealousy in your relationship. There's been a history of cheating. You've never talked about your sex life. You've never shared fantasies before. You haven't been able to keep it sustained and hot for a period of time. You have a lot of secrets. You are still shameful around sex. You're hoping that your partner's a mind reader. They're going to figure out what you want in bed. You're actually hoping your sex life is going to get better. You are controlling your partner's masturbation habits. You are jealous around their masturbation because you find it a threat.
That's a good one.
That's a really big one. I used to have that too.
I used to have that when I was young too. Oh my gosh, I remember in high school I found out my boyfriend masturbated. I'm like, you've been cheating on me.
Exactly.
I literally thought it was cheating. I'm like, you've been cheating. You thought another girl was attractive. I'm gonna jump. Crazy.
Same. We all think. I love that we brought this up because I'm telling you, there's a lot of people listening going, "Oh shit, that's not." Because I had that too. At 25, I found my partner's porn collection, and all the women did not look like me.
Yeah, same.
They were blonde, and I'm not blonde. They had large breasts. I'm like, oh my god, we are having the best sex of our life. It's such a violation because I didn't have the understanding that that your partner's going to masturbate.
Yeah.
They're going to partner it. They're going to and you should be masturbating too.
Yes.
In a relationship, out of a relationship, that masturbation is a huge part of being sexually healthy. I didn't have any of that information.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yes. Actually, just on that, as like a last question, like what would you recommend for women, especially? I feel like women are a bit more timid to have a masturbation practice. How can they carve out time and also just like creatively like have fun with it?
You know, I think it's such a great question because there is so much shame around it. Because again, let's get rid of the pleasure thieves. Like if you grew up in an environment where it wasn't okay, like let's not, we've got to clear all that. Like let's say that you know that masturbation is a huge part of being sexually healthy, and until you figure out your own body, it's going to be really hard for your partner to figure out. I used to think that partners they would know, they didn't know. So some of my greatest growth came from me finally saying, all right, I'm going to do it. So I think just like knowing that it's about that pleasure is your birthright, and knowing that you will learn so much about your body. Like take a mirror, look between your legs, like understand that when you start to touch yourself, that you start to become more aroused and gorgeous. You can watch your vagina, your vulva start to swell. Like it's like a science experience, a science experiment that I think that, and also you can give yourself pleasure and understand yourself. So I think one of the best ways to get started is to get lube. I think that lube is such an important part of sex, is that there's a lot of shame, and that our wetness levels change throughout the month. And so you don't want to use saliva, you want to use lube. And get a sex toy, get like a little vibrator or something, and just say like, I'm going to take a bath, I'm going to calm my nervous system, and I'm going to spend 20 minutes a week, every day, whatever works for you. And I'm just going to get curious and start to explore. And with the goal, and I give some details in the book about mindful masturbation, having a mindful practice where you can kind of tie it into your meditation. I talk about meditate, masturbate, manifest. So tying into something you're already doing. Like I already meditate. I have a vibrator in my shower because sometimes I forget too. But I know that here's the other thing, is that sex begets sex. So if you're not in a relationship, what I hear from a lot of women are like, well, I don't need to, or I'm not in a relationship, or why do I need that? That's why. Because we need to keep our own pilot lit. We need to be the source of our arousal. And so the more that we masturbate and become in touch with that sexual energy and that fire inside of us, the more we like know how to control it, perpetuate, and we'll find that we feel more embodied, more attuned, and then more able to kind of find a lover that's going to meet us there, whether we're single or in a relationship.
Yes, beautifully said. Yeah. And I also it helped me to understand in sex kind of where my pleasure was actually in my body. Just after like my own exploration, it was so helpful.
Yeah, and the manifest would be, I guess, you achieving a heightened level of emotional state and being able to like relax into what you're trying to create. What's the manifest part?
So the manifest part is just I'll meditate for a few minutes. I will masturbate, have an orgasm at the height of orgasm. When you guys talked about womb and feminine energy, like you are at this heightened state of creativity and arousal. And in that moment when you're orgasming, to kind of think about your higher self, what you want for that day, what you want for your life. And there's so much more that can happen in your world when you are in tune with the most magical energy ever, what that is orgasm. And then in that moment to just have a moment where you are already where it already is. Everything that you want already is in that moment of connection with yourself, your beautiful body.
I'll orgasm and think about my home.
Yes, exactly. You're in the home.
Yes, I'm in the home masturbating in my thing.
Yeah.
This has been so much fun.
So much.
Such a pleasure. I feel like it's a long time coming. We're such fans of you and your work, and I'm so excited about the book to come out. I know it's a big undertaking, so I think people are going to love it and get so much value out of it. So thank you for writing it. Can you tell us a little about it for the people that are going to get it?
Yeah, the book, you can it's called Sex IQ: How to Boost Your Pleasure, How to Boost Your Sex IQ and Own Your Pleasure. And really, it's a manual. It's your guidebook. It's probably one of the only sex books you'll ever need. If you don't have one yet, then it'll be your first one and your last one, because I cover everything in the book about becoming more sexually intelligent, more self-aware, and really inviting more pleasure into your life. Pleasure is productivity, and pleasure is presence. Pleasure is not selfish. Pleasure is not something that you're going to make time for after your to-do list. It's about how to integrate pleasure into your life, so it will help you in every area of your life. You'll have more pleasure, more conscious, more presence.
Truly enjoy your
reframing
life.
pleasure. Enjoy your freaking life more.
Enjoy your freaking life, baby.
We suffer so much, and we go along with what a lot of the world wants for us, and not what we need for us. So.
Yes, great work.
Thank you.
Oh, so fun. You were wonderful.
So much fun.
You are beautiful.
So
Amber. You are
fun.
so talented.
All right, guys, we love you. Bye. Thank you so much, Emily Morse. Again, the book is Smart Sex, and it is out now.
And if you want to learn more about Almost 30, what we have going on, including the membership and our programs, a little bit about Krista and I and our story, or maybe you just want to grab some discounts from our incredible sponsors, you can go to almost30.com. Thank you for listening. As always, we appreciate you. We love you. We support you. And we'll see you on the next one.
We'll see you soon. Bye.